we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to Lord Zoom Live Longer. Yes, we love making up great new titles. We got the idea from Zoom. Just keep creating new words for stuff and people have to use them. My name's John Drinkwater, known as Lord Zoom. And today I've got a quite impressive collection of friends with me to talk about production studio. Because the one time you need production studio is when you have a collection of impressive people with you. In my humble office here, I have a wide range of tools and gizmos. Zoom is 15 years old now. 15. And it's over 6 years since I started using Zoom. When I did, we only had Zoom meeting. And yet somehow we managed to cobble together a 3-day event for Toastmasters International with 1,000 people in the room. And I think it was something like 100, 150 people taking part in speaking competitions and workshops and just generally celebrating our Toastmaster journey for that year. Wow. Has Zoom changed? What has happened in the last 6 years is absolutely mind-boggling. I really have difficulty in keeping up, and I completely understand why people who are just seeing what Zoom can do in the very recent past are probably just blown over with what it can do. So we go from Zoom meetings to Zoom webinars, where we can have a collection of presenters working together to present content to a large audience. And then we have Webinars Plus, which adds new tools, and then Zoom Events, which allows you to have multiple sessions of meetings and webinars, all part of one event, even activities running together at the same time. It's a far cry from 6 years ago where I needed 15 copies of Zoom meeting to run a 3-day event. But of course, once you have a large event, the next problem is, how do you manage it? How do you keep all those speakers under control? How do you deliver a professional, productive performance? And that's before we even consider the possibility that you may have people online and people in the audience. Ooh, you may even have people in the audience, people online, and then people on social media like we have today. So welcome to all our friends on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and everywhere we have streamed this today. That means that for Zoom and for people using Zoom, there's a big hole. There's a big hole between just doing it with a webcam and a copy of Zoom and using all the technology of sound systems and video switches and lots of cameras, of course, that you do in a bigger system. And the problem has been, how do you go from one stage to the next? How do you upgrade? It's actually quite tricky, which is why a lot of us spend a lot of time helping you, the community, do this. And Zoom also realized that this was a need that they couldn't just leave to the third-party vendors. And that's how Production Studio came along. So that's the story of Production Studio. But I'm not a Zoom employee. I'm not paid by Zoom. I'm a community champion, like many of my guests here today. And so I felt it was better if we brought some Zoomies into the party to give us an overview of what this product, Production Studio, is about. Let's hear what Production Studio is. And the best person I know to do that is Josh Bragg, who is an expert and a leader in the Zoom events area at Zoom. So Josh, I would love you to save me the time, and you'll do it better. Josh, could you please give us an introduction to Production Studio? Welcome, Josh Bragg.
Thank you so much, John, and hi, Mike. Always love being on your show. Really appreciate you guys inviting me on. Good to see everybody here. So good. And congratulations to you guys. You've been getting some recognition, especially from the developer community, for all of your great work in the developer community and in the Zoom community and all that. So thank you guys so much for being such positive advocates for Zoom and for our customers. We all learn so much from you guys. So keep it up. Keep it up. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Over the past couple of releases, what I want to talk about today, Production Studio has really taken a couple of really big jumps forward. And Production Studio is simultaneously doing two things at once. One is continuing to grow and mature as a webinar production tool, and two, fly under the radar just a little bit. There are so many customers out there that still maybe just aren't aware that they have access to such a professional, easy-to-use tool to really step up their webinar production game. So I want to just take a second, walk you through especially what's new with Production Studio, but also just make sure you know in general what it is and what it's capable of. So let's jump into the demo kind of portion of this conversation, and we'll keep moving here. So here I am in the scene creator side of Production Studio. What this allows you to do, and here's an image here. Let me just jump to this scene real quick. Here's an image from a video. It's a piece of video actually in Production Studio from a webinar using Production Studio. That's so meta. So if you want to know kind of what the end state can be, look at this beautiful recording here that we have, where we have 3 speakers and sort of custom layouts. Notice that they're square, or maybe kind of square, with kind of a cool layout and a nice background. And this is what Production Studio allows you to do. It allows you to customize, to produce your Zoom webinar in an entirely new way. It gives it a fresh skin, a fresh layout, fresh aspect ratios, fresh wallpapers, borders, those types of things. So really exciting. If you didn't know that you could produce Zoom webinars that look kind of like broadcast TV, now you know, and I hope you would, I would encourage you to check out how to operate this. So here's the scene creator side. You can create up to 50 different scenes full of all kinds of different layouts. We have the ability to play back video content. Really popular would be to stack a countdown. Here's a countdown, or an opening marketing video of some sort that you want to open the show with, or cold open the show with. That might be really popular. Or maybe you have pre-recorded segments that you're wanting to do, a pre-recorded demo, or a speaker who couldn't make it that day. No big deal. Upload it to Production Studio, fire a couple of scenes off, and off you go. So we'll look at what the operator side looks like here in just a second. But for our purposes, you can very readily, very easily create scenes. We have all kinds of different layouts here, all kinds of different ways that you can make your show look like what you want. Here's 3 speakers and 1 big speaker, whatever you are kind of wanting to do. So we have plenty of training on this. I'm not going to belabor how to build scenes or anything like that, but What's new, as of our past couple of releases, is the ability to add lower thirds. So on-screen text, kind of graphics, on-screen overlays down in the bottom third of your scene. So here's a couple of our templates, kind of just the idea is to get you started. So I like this one really nice. Could be lower thirds. This is we do have one graphic per scene, not per video tile just yet. So think of these more as if you are doing a one-up scene, maybe like this one, where you just have one person. That might be a great place to add a lower third with just someone's name. Or if you have multiple people in a scene, might be great to use it more as as just an on-screen graphic. Maybe you want to prompt your audience with something. So here's a couple of uses I've already seen this for is doing maybe general session, general agenda notifications, keeping people on task with what's going on. So next up, session number 2 or speaker number 2, something like that. And I like always prompting chat or Q&A. So be sure to engage in chat and Q&A. We're listening. Might be something really nice to say to your audience and flash that up at different moments. So what you can do is create these lower thirds. This actually might be kind of cool. Maybe you want to say 5 minutes left and flash this up at different moments. That might be a good way to do it. So what you would do is set up your template here. You can customize the color of this image. So maybe I want this whole thing to be a little more teal. I can add my company logo. So if I come in here and say company logo, there's my company logo. I can add that. Now I have a nice little block over there. I can even do things like animate it. So as I come and go from the scene, let's go ahead and save this one. And I'll demonstrate that. As I come and go from the scene, it animates, it slides right up. There it goes with a little whoosh there, really, really nice. So as I build the template, I can also then save this as the template that I want to use for all of my lower thirds throughout my session. And yes, all of these scenes and all of these lower third templates can be saved as a scene template and used again and again. So very exciting. That was a whirlwind of what it looks like to set up scenes, but let's jump into a webinar and actually look at what it looks like to operate. This is one of the bigger things that has changed over the past few releases is just how Production Studio operates. So here we go. I am in an event. Here is a lovely event. I'm calling it Laser Focus. Use some AI to make something a little more fun to show for you guys today. But here we go. So I have a preview side. If you've never operated a video switcher before, it's not that scary. Don't worry about it. We have a preview side, what's coming up, and an on-air side that's labeled here with this little red blip. I can resize these images here. So if I like them to be kind of even, or if I like one to be more prevalent or not, I'm welcome to do that. That's a nice little change. So let's just walk through what a show would look like. This will take just a minute or two, but let's say I want to open with a countdown video. There goes my video. It's scene number 1. I have it labeled on air countdown. It's over here, and off goes my countdown. Maybe I started my show a couple of minutes early. In the countdown, I suggest that maybe you bake some logos, or maybe you have some different announcement slides that rotate through. Put some music in there, right? It's always nice to walk into a room where there's a little bit of music happening. That's always a really nice effect for your audience. So there we go. We're up and running with our countdown. Let's prepare our first scene. So what I want to do, and let's actually remove him just so you know. So here's my scene template that I created. I made my nice little space background there. I want a nice square look. I think that's what I chose for this show. And you can see I added a nice little lower third that sort of matches my overall theme colors. As I get to set up my scenes, I can choose who shows up in the scenes. And this is really new behavior. I can drag and drop, which is really nice, or I can just toggle on. Maybe I want to toggle Samantha on, or Ed on, or off throughout the show. Great, no big deal. This is the same scene, and I can just pick and choose who I want to highlight. Let me show you one other thing that's really nice here. I can also, if I'd like, just put active speaker in this scene. So if you just have one speaker in a scene, make it active speaker. whoever's talking is who shows up in that scene. Really, really nice. So let's put Ed back in that scene. I've already made his title there. One of the nice things that you can do as well is as a video comes to the end, I can actually automatically, there it went, automatically go to the next scene in the preview. So really nice way to have seamless transitions between video content and live production. So none of that's particularly new. Let's fire up a 2-up scene now. Here's my 2-up people. There's both of them. I've selected both of them. One really nice thing about this most recent release is we now have the ability for the production studio operator, that's me, that could be any host or co-host in your webinar, can now do things like mute or ask to unmute different people. So there I've muted Samantha, maybe her dog, was getting a little out of control, and now I can ask her to unmute right here from the production studio interface. So I don't have to leave or go anywhere else. And I can actually do things like move her around or pin her or rename her or do all kinds of different things here without changing screens, just staring right here at what I want. So really nice way to operate it. So let's send our 2-up scene live and let's talk about graphics. And that's all I have to show you today. But there we go. There's our main our main 2-up scene now. They're going to have a nice conversation. I have a nice little blip there that says session 1. That's the session that we're in. Chat and Q&A are open. But let's say I want to change that title. So maybe instead of session 1, I want to either take it down or I want to change what it has to say. No big deal. So I'm going to grab this scene here. I can edit it in preview. So now I have this one is on air and this one is off air, but I can now manipulate this scene. So in this case, maybe I actually want to turn off that lower third blip for a while and put their names up for a while. No big deal. There we go. I have done that really readily, really easily there. Can also turn those off and send that live. Turn those off now. Remember, I'm live now. I'm operating. And maybe I want to say something about next session coming up in 5 minutes. Might be a really nice thing to say. Get your questions in now for Ed. Boom. I now have created a graphic on the fly. I've put it up. Simple. Point of this is to be really, really simple, easy to use. And now I have a beautiful recording and a beautiful live session all ready for editing. So I think you probably would agree this is easy to operate. I even like this auto hide. Maybe I should have done that. This auto hide behavior here that takes it down after a certain period of time, I think is really, really nice there. So really easy to operate, really simple to run, built right into the Zoom client. This is not a third-party piece of software. It's literally just opened from Zoom and off you go. So if you haven't explored Production Studio and what all it could do for your webinar programs, makes them look better, makes the recording look better. So now if you want to repurpose content, pull snippets out or things like that, you have a better looking recording to start with. So really exciting phase for us here with Zoom events and Production Studio, and can't wait to see what you all create. I've seen people already in the community creating exciting webinars with these types of looks, these types of lower thirds on that. So can't wait to see what everybody else will create. Thanks for your time today. Thank you, John and Mike. Always love being here. I'll kick it back to you guys for the rest of this.
Thanks, Josh. Fantastic. Zoomies just over-deliver, don't they? I said, Josh, I did say to you 10 minutes to give us the main features. And it's just bombarded us with stuff. It's fantastic. Thank you, Josh, for your time. I'm a little bit worn out now. So what do I like about Production Studio myself? Well, look, I told you I've got all these tools, but it just makes life so much easier. And it solves one big problem that I have when I use all this tech. And that is, I become the most vulnerable part of the system. If I run an event with my tech, then my internet connection from the cupboard behind me is between success and failure of that event. Anything happens to me, the event's in trouble. So what do people do with my level of tech? They start having backups to everything. So that cost starts going up. Production studio is in the cloud. Now, Mike Latter, got to be careful because we've got a few mics here today. Mike Latter is controlling the scenes from production studio from Canada. Using production studio, he can decide what the scenes are. He's making me zoom in and out from these two scenes so I don't get stuck in one frame and bore you. But if anything happens to Mike, and I don't want it to, please no. But if Mike's internet connection goes down or his machine crashes or somebody decides to watch a Netflix video and it starts losing the speed, any of us who are hosts or co-hosts could take control of production studio. It would stay on the scene, so it would stay in this scene that I'm in now, but I could take it over and I could continue doing the further scenes. Or maybe he wants to just have a rest. He needs to go off to have lunch because it's a long show. Somebody else can take over. That is the feature that I love the most about Production Studio. Actually, I love most of the ones that we've already had, but that's the one I could think of that Josh didn't get into his 10 minutes. But I'm not the only community champion here. I have another community champion here, Ray. And I would love to hear what Ray's most favored features of Production Studio are for him and for the customers that he supports. Ray, welcome to Lord Zoom Live. What's your idea?
Thanks, John. You know, I'm kind of like you. I've got so many favorite things. And, you know, I've been using Production Studio since it first came out. And the things that you and I and Mike Latta and some of us other heavy users have sort of suggested to our buddy Josh. Hey, Josh, would it be nice if we did this? Zoom's done a great job of surfacing a lot of that stuff that we kind of wished for. Yeah, sometimes you make your wish and you're not really sure, am I going to get it or not? There's a couple of recent things, and as Josh mentioned, they've done some just basic makeover of the way Production Studio looks when you're working with it on screen. And one of the recent things is you can name each of those individual scenes that you're going to use, and you can make them a 1-up or a 2-up with share, or maybe someone's going to record you a video that you're going to play because they're not going to be there or whatever, and you can name them. And up until a couple of months ago, those names weren't visible to you while you were using Production Studio. So if you had a long list of Production Studio scenes, and you're panicking, oh, we've got an extra person on here that I wasn't really expecting. Which scene do I go to? Sometimes it's a little difficult to find. So little things like that, Zoom's been really good at kind of making sure that they work well. The one that I really love, and I did a global international nursing conference back in April, and I did this in 6 different worldwide regions over 2 days. And that is the video playout scene. We had 2 different segments of some pre-recorded work that I simply upload to the cloud and bring in one of those video scenes and point to those videos, and they're very seamless. You just basically put them in the list and click play and they work. This was sort of a low budget conference, and in those particular sessions where I was using it, I was the only host really there. And in one case, I had a brief internet glitch and my whole Zoom screen went. And while I'm panicking, 10 seconds later, it came right back. It was amazing. I was in the middle of one of those video playout scenes, and when Zoom came back, much to my surprise and glee, the video was still playing. The video was playing not from my machine, but from the cloud. And that's a
Yeah.
not a real recent change, but that's something that happened not too long ago. And to me, that has been a game changer to be able to push that and get it started.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's there's not much you can do if your speaker doesn't turn up or their connection goes. But at least when you've got control of the whole system and you're able to keep up whatever happens, even if you, as you say, even if your system goes down for a minute, Production Studio will just stay running. Whatever feature, whatever thing is happening in Production Studio, it will continue doing that until either you come back online or somebody else takes over from you. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So this is how we're going to do this show. We're talking at the moment about good features and things like that in the second hour, for those that want to stay for the second hour or for those that want to watch the second hour later. In the second hour, we're going to go into the weeds. We're going to do what Josh did for us in a small segment. We're going to look at the back end of how it works, going to show you how do you make things happen, how it all connects, and give you confidence. But of course, the big question we've avoided, and I do need to address, especially as reminded me of it, but it wasn't my notes, I promise you. Wasn't going to mention it for another 10 minutes, but I'm going to mention it now. Money. Yep, money. We've got to talk about money. If you want to have the production studio equipment I have here, I can't tell you exactly how much it would cost, but it is insured for about $30,000. So there's quite a bit of equipment in this room. I mean, I'm just thinking of the machine I usually run. That cost me $3,000. I think with the prices of changes due to AI shortages, it would probably cost me more than that now. But if you want to use Production Studio, all you need is, firstly, you need a webinar. Because if you're not going to run a webinar, you can't use Production Studio. Production Studio only works in webinar mode. So for those of you that think this is amazing and want to run it in a meeting, well, you can-ish, but no. This is a webinar product. It's designed for a stage of presenters and an audience of attendees. And as far as cost goes, if you purchase the Webinar Plus license, you get Production Studio. If you buy a standard webinar license, you don't get Production Studio. You just get to do webinars. But if you do a Webinar Plus license or an events license, you get Production Studio as part of that system. And in the second half, I'll show you how that works. Our shows are written on Production Studio. So far, there has only been one naughty thing outside Production Studio. And that was done by Josh, because bringing all those screens in together, he did use another piece of software to bring that screenshot in and then make him a little box in the corner. But everything else we have done up to this point is Production Studio and only Production Studio, which is quite cool, isn't it? I was hoping that you were all going to say yes in the chat, but I didn't get flooded with them, but never mind. I think it is, and I'm going to assume everybody who's watching the recording is going to think it's a great idea. So Production Studio works at two levels. The first thing you need to do is you need to design your production. And what I mean by that is these different scenes, and they're called scenes, where we keep going in and out, different people. Mike's going to demonstrate that for me in a second. So when I'm going zooming in and zooming out, that's a different scene. So he's got one version of me taking up the full screen. There we are. Gosh, it worked just on cue as well. You can tell we've done this together for the last 6 months, can't you? And then there's another version of me, which is a slightly smaller video segment, and you can see the background behind it. And I have pre-created created those in Production Studio while I'm editing the event itself. And then those list of scenes are then available to Mike, and Mike can then make use of those. Now, I may set who is in those scenes, but as Josh showed and will show later, watch out, Ray, you might get grabbed in a second. Mike can decide who are in those scenes. So if he wanted to try and catch out Ray, who hasn't gone for a drinks break, so he will be okay, he could put Ray into one of my scenes and then bring him on in screen instead of me. And there, he's showed off now, you see. See, Mike Latter has found the 2-up, as we call it, and he's put Ray in with me, and now in one press, we're on the screen together. And he's gone again. Poor old Ray. He's just been kicked off the screen. But that's how it works. And it is ridiculously easy. And my only hope is that Zoom doesn't get carried away with all the extra features and make it hard, because keeping it easy is what we want. If you want a complicated system, go and spend all those pounds or dollars on something else. But Production Studio is for people who want to keep it simple and make it simple, and it's easy to use. So, so somebody's got something to say. Bring me on the stage. Ray, what would you like to add to this?
Hey, John. There's two things I'd like to amplify that you've said.
Please.
Number one is the cost. Now, one of the things about having a regular webinar license and a regular meeting license is that if you happen to have a big, large capacity webinar or meeting license, and one of your clients says, hey, we would really like to have this event thing, but we just need a meeting. Can we borrow your license? And the answer to that is really, I can't actually give you access to my large meeting license or my large webinar license. Because in those cases, if you want to add an alternate host, someone else that can run it, they have to be in your organization. With a Webinars Plus license or a Zoom Events license, you can make anybody with a Zoom license from anywhere the alt host or the host of the session. So I have clients who go, gee, Ray, we don't want to buy our own big Zoom Events license because we don't use it that often, but we would like to have 150 people or so, gathered in a webinar and a couple of presenters. And I'll say, what day, what day and time? They give me a day and time. I go look at my calendar and I go, I don't have anything running during that time. I have a single use license. I can't run simultaneous ones, but I can go, yeah, I'm not using it at that particular point. I can give you the event. I can make them an editor. They can create their own webinar, and I can help them with their production studio, which takes me to my second point I want to amplify. And that is how easy Production Studio is. One of my clients, the Teacher Reedy and folks, they're the Maori down in New Zealand. They have an event every 2 years, and they typically have 8 to 12 people, volunteers, non-technical people really, who run each of their sessions. It's been between a 6 and 10-day session with 25 to 40 different individual sessions over that time. And they have run Production Studio themselves. I've spent an hour or two with them, just showing them the basics. I'll create their scene sets for them, a minimal set of scene sets, and then train them on, look, we've got 2 views of John over here, and you should move back and forth between those views just to sort of keep the audience's attention and so forth. And they do a wonderful job. And Production Studio creates its own MP4 output in your cloud recordings, and they've been able to take those cloud recordings and with a minimal amount of editing on the front and back end, load them right on up to YouTube for evergreen content. So, yeah, the cost is not that great. And if you have someone who has a license, they can sponsor a session for you. And the ease of training, I've taken non-technical people with a couple of hours and then turn them loose in a session that they can go in and practice in for a couple of weeks before they go live. And by that point, they're all confident. So that's my extra 2 cents to your 2 cents there, John.
Oh, I think you're undervaluing yourself, Ray. That was definitely worth more than 2 cents. Yes, this is a mind shift for a lot of people. It's very easy to use, and it's a team thing. You don't need one person to just do the whole lot. You can have a team. You can have a team who help you create the event, and you can have a team that help you run the event. So I'd like to switch to our other Zoomie. Yes, we got 2 Zoomies here today. So Mike Elliott, I would like to ask you how this team event works in the corporate world, where you could have a number of people involved in running an event, and therefore there are going to be people doing the production studio, people doing the pre-show things, pulling it all together. How do you think production studio works in that world with all the toys that they have? And by the way, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me, and I appreciate the chance to reach a different audience here today. So, yeah, to answer your question, I would say that it's not necessarily just production studio that enables that, but also the license that you buy that comes with it, right? So when we talked about, Webinar Plus or Zoom Events in order to unlock the production studio license, and if you're building events in the events portal, it's inherently collaborative there, right? It's a bit, it's actually substantially easier than it is in regular web portal Zoom webinars to invite your team to manage events. And you guys have alluded to helping, different customers outside your organizations and building their events and operating their events. And you could very easily have, and I see this all the time, situations where, for example, you're building an event for a customer. The customer is going to be sitting in backstage answering questions in the chat and in Q&A. Maybe you have a third-party AV vendor that's running production studio or that's doing some production tricks for you. And the events portal, Webinar Plus and Events allow you to designate alternative hosts outside your organization, designate co-hosts or co-editors, I should say, that are able to build the event for you, despite not being in your organization. And many of you who have supported customers on their accounts or even on your own account, you've probably run into this where it's difficult to, and maybe even within your own organization, it's difficult sometimes to designate an alternative host to help you run a session. Because in regular Zoom, it's required to be a licensed user in your account to give them that permission. Once you get into the events portal, which again, you need to have to access this feature, you have much more flexible rules around who can participate in building an event, editing an event, driving an event, and the various different roles involved. And so I would say Production Studio is designed to make it actually substantially easier and cheaper for you in the sense that you don't need a full team to run an event. It is still obviously important, depending on the scale, to have enough people in your backstage to respond to Q&A and chat in real time and to keep up with the pace. But yeah, I think I would say exactly that. It is possible to have a team, and it's easy to have a team. But also Production Studio is designed to make it so that 1 or 2 operators can really run an effective show with high broadcast quality. So I hope that answers your question, and happy to answer any more you have.
That sounds great, Mike. So if you'd like to stay on stage, and Mike, if you could bring me on stage, you will find that I am not there on my camera shot. The camera shot that I have now is actually a picture of another computer. That is my Zoom screen from another computer. And you may notice, I'll go and sit there, shall I? So it makes it a bit more intelligent. This that I have here is backstage. I am actually in now the area called backstage. And you can see me above, which is a bit meta, but we're was wheels within wheels here, see? So what you can see above is what's on stage, and that is me, because if I wasn't on stage showing you, then of course you wouldn't see it. But actually, I'm not on stage. I'm actually backstage here. And the only reason you can see that is because I'm sharing my video signal to the other computer that's connected to, well, I just hope that doesn't confuse you too much. Just take it as read that I am backstage. And as backstage, I can chat as much as I like, and you wouldn't be able to hear a word I said. I could have other people backstage with me and I could work with them. I can see the chat. I can see what's going on above me. If I want to hear what's going on above me, I can use this little button here. And I'm not going to use that little button here because otherwise I'll hear an echo of myself, because of course I'm virtually on stage at the moment. And I can actually see where everybody is. I can click on the participants button and I'll drag it down so you guys can see it as well. And I can see all the people here who are my panelists. And I can see where they are, and they're all on stage, and I'm on my own backstage as well. But I can move from backstage to on the stage. I can bring them back from off the stage if I'm in charge, or they can do it for themselves. And here's Ray. Ray's got bored being on stage, so he's come on backstage with me. And the weird thing is, of course, I can't talk to him, because if I talk to him, I'm going to create echoes. So I'm going to have to be careful not to talk to him. But you see, we are now together. We can do, in fact, since the latest, and Josh didn't mention this, Mike didn't mention this, Ray didn't mention this. In the latest version of Production Studio, I can actually take control of Production Studio. Here's the Open Production Studio button. Mike is getting worried now because I might take over his system, but I can actually control backstage Production Studio. So I don't even now have to be on the stage. I can back here, watch what's going on, and I can open Production Studio and I can run Production Studio. And I will show you what Mike has at the moment. So this is what's going on. It's going to be screens within screens. So I apologize for that bit, but you can see that I have, if I zoom it out a bit more, make it a bit more easy, you can see the people that are on stage. You can see me live, window within a window. So I apologize for that bit. This shows you what's going on at the moment, and I could change things. So if I wanted to stop being seen, I could, well, let's say hello to Mike. So I could drag Mike up and he would be able to take over. All right. But I'm not going to do that because I'll scare the bejesus out of Mike, because he thinks at the moment he's running Production Studio. And if I take it over from him, I'm going to make it a nightmare for myself. So that's what Backstage is like. Backstage is available without Production Studio, but the fact you can run it in this environment makes it much easier to work together, because the people who are not live at that moment in time can, of course, come to Backstage, talk together, and then only those people that need to be on the stage can be on the stage. And Production Studio, as I said, you can run it from Backstage or you can run it from the main stage. In our case, Mike's on stage with everybody. So the only trick that I used there, which is outside Production Studio, was to change this screen from, instead of being coming from my camera, coming from the computer over there. Okay, so that isn't in Production Studio, but everything else that I showed you, how you control it from the Backstage, is there. And I think that makes it very easy if we talk about either the corporate or the team coming in to run an event for you. That means that they can organize things, they can be backstage, they can get things organized and run events. And the stage is just populated by the people. The people are only seen when they're put live on Production Studio, but if anyone turns on their microphone, you can hear them. So if Mike turned on his microphone or Ray turned his microphone on, they will be able to say hello.
Hello, hello, check, check, 1 2 1 2.
That'll do for me. That'll do for me, and you can hear them. Production Studio makes things really easy. Now let's talk about the bad things about Production Studio, because we don't like Zoom to get away with it. There's two things that I don't like about Production Studio. One of which, actually there's three, but one of which I don't want them to change. I don't want Production Studio to compete with all my other products. I want it to be a simple stepping stone. And then people can use other products. And one of the things it doesn't allow, which I hope they never change, is I have to plan these scenes before we start the event. And if I don't put the right scenes in, Mike shouts at me and we can't use them. So for instance, we have a gallery view, because we've got so many lovely guests here today. We've got a gallery view, which Mike can pull up. And by saying that, of course, I'm hinting to him that he's going to go and find it. And that gallery view allows us to put everybody on stage. Now, we don't usually use that because there's only usually 2 or 3 of us in this event. But there we are. The gallery view allows 9 people. This is a good feature. Zoom doesn't give us blanks. It just gives us the people that are available. If there is a blank, it just ignores that video box and doesn't pull it up. And we're all together in this gallery view. I love this. And I love the fact, although it annoys the bejesus out of people, I love the fact that you have to pre-plan this. Because I know from experience that when people start adding new scenes and new layouts and stuff in the middle of an event, it causes so many ongoing problems with people not knowing where the scenes are and new scenes have turned up and should they use them. So I am quite happy that Zoom doesn't allow you to have new events. And I hope that it never does, because then you have your planning stage. Thank you, everybody, for popping on the stage for a second there. You have your planning stage and you have your production. And we have a question from one of our audience members here about gallery view. The gallery view is for the people who are on the stage, the speakers on the stage. So Mike, can you bring that gallery view back? And if any of those people left the stage and went backstage, they wouldn't be on the list. That gallery view is for 9 people. So if Mike, if you turned off your camera, you disappear. And Ray did that as well. Ray was so quick. He worked it out already and he did it before I even asked. So if you turn off your camera, you then disappear from the list of people. So that answers Rohit's very good question. And gallery view is one of the views that we'll look at. As I said, in the second hour, we're going to go through all the different layouts in detail and tell you which ones we like and which ones we don't like. But that is something I like, which I don't want to change. I want this to be an easy product. A lot of people have said, oh, doesn't it work on a Stream Deck? Yeah, I thought everything worked on a Stream Deck. And I have to say, I'm on the fence about this one. Because I already have a product that allows you to run Production Studio on a Stream Deck. It's a fiddle. I know it's a fiddle because all I've done is get it to remember where all the boxes are in Production Studio, and the buttons then make the box that's under that button work. So it is a fix. It is a fiddle. But what it taught me was actually running this on a Stream Deck would be difficult, because once you have more than Mike, can you tell me? I think it's maybe Ray even knows this. How many boxes can you get down the side on your screen before you run out of space? I think it's something like 10, 9, 10, something like that. Anyhow,
yeah, you can see about 10 or so. You can have
Lovely.
50, but then you've got to scroll all the way
Exactly.
to take a look at them.
Exactly. Ray, you're on the money. You can only see about 10 of your 50 scenes. And if you have backup scenes for different things, then it's very easy to go beyond the 10 and get to 20 or even 30 slides. And I wonder if that would then, if people then started using their Stream Decks, I wonder if they'd actually get more confused using that than they would by clicking the buttons and dragging the buttons. So I have a feeling that Stream Deck support could be tricky, especially as they've now added these extra things like taking people off and taking people on and bringing out their titles. And by the way, we're not allowed to call it titles much longer because I understand it's going to be renamed to something. But of course, I can't tell you what's happening with Zoom because I'm not allowed to. But let's just say I have a feeling titles is going to get changed. Won't say anymore. Ray, you got something to contribute? We'll bring you on screen and you can unmute yourself and you can.
Yeah, unmuting would be good, wouldn't it? The release notes came out today, and the release notes mentioned the conversion from titles to overlays.
Yes, the pre-release notes.
They'll be out Monday. Same thing, different title for the titles.
Which I think is a better description of what they are, because otherwise they were sort of painting, the definition was painting them into a corner for what they would be. Whereas you can see we could have a title, it could be down here now. I don't think I set one up, so Mike's going to tell me off for this, but you could have a one down here at the bottom. So you could have a title where it could say full demo starting in 8 minutes, according to my clock. But of course, Mike wants to show that he not only knows the system, but we set it up properly, because look, there is unbelievably a lower third now going to be called a title or an overlay, or I don't mind what you call it, but there's my name, and I've even got a photo of me as well. Is that not cool? Does that look nice? And that is built in. Mike can turn it on and turn it off as he feels that it needs to be done. And that's why it doesn't necessarily need to be my name. It could be a subject, it could be a title, it could be a section heading, whatever you can dream to have, it's available. I just love it. Now, I've got a confession to make now, because I think it's about time we did so. Josh has had to leave us, which is why we brought Mike in instead of Josh. It's better anyhow. But the reason for that is Josh was never here in the first place. I'll say that again. Josh was never here in the first place. That was pre-recorded Josh that he did for me and sent over to me last Friday. I believe he's off doing something in a boat, but he is not with us. So thank you, Josh, for your contribution. And the reason I kept that little white lie until now was to show you how easy it is to mix up Production Studio. We started off with our theme tune, which because of the way we set it up, I have to re-edit every single week because I want the front screen to be about the subject matter of the show we're running. But otherwise, that is a slide with some music behind it. It plays at the beginning. Mike does it beautifully. And it goes into a set slide of the same image so that Mike has got a freeze frame of the show as well. There it is. Mike brings it up beautifully. Don't even have to say it. He just knows. And this is a nice, easy way of running a show. But then we had, after my introduction, I introduced Josh. I told him I was going to introduce him. And he then recorded a snippet for me. And we ran straight into that. So Production Studio is a little bit more than just a few guys on girls talking in boxes. We have the ability to bring all those people in through Zoom, but we also have the ability to have static images, like Mike just showed. We can also have pre-recorded videos that we can put in the show. We can even have pre-recorded, there he is, there are pre-recorded videos with the various layouts. So we can have pre-recorded videos with people on the stage. We can also have screen shares. So I could screen share something and then Mike could bring that screen share onto the stage at a particular point. To make things easier for you for me to show you how the settings work in Zoom, I've been cheating because I'm piping my, there it is there. I'm piping in my production studio layout from my computer over there, or I'm taking it in as a video feed. And I'm using a cheat. I'm using something outside Zoom to bring that in. But I could quite easily screen share here, except there is a problem with screen sharing Production Studio because it's a Zoom page, and Zoom then tend not to allow you. So I'm just warning you about that. And then let's just mention the other bit out the outside where we get to the end of our first hour. And I'm going to then bring our mic on for a second. The other important thing, which Ray reminded me of because I missed it on my notes. There is a Production Studio cloud recording option. So that means that you can tick the box and you will get a recording of your Production Studio output. In other words, exactly what we've got here will appear in that recording. It's a specific option in your cloud recordings, which is fantastic because you know you're going to get your cloud recording. And it doesn't stop you. If you want to record one of the other views, it doesn't stop you having that recording as well, because you may want to make use of the information later. You may want to use versions of the recording. And that, by the way, Mike Elliott, that's what I'm going to ask you about in a second. So you've got a chance to think about it. The view of Production Studio when it's live is the same view that's going to our friends on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and wherever else I can remember we connected to. I think we've got 3 YouTube channels it's going to. But all of those will see exactly what we see on Production Studio. So they get to see that as well. But of course, when the event is over, okay, we're talking about Production Studio here, but when the event is over, all the video content that you have, you can really make good use of it. And Mike Elliott, we also have the AI. Mike, I still can't understand the beauty of this, but every time I run an event, I get a message from Zoom and it's made me snippets of my event when it thought I was being clever, and it's recorded those as snippets and I get them separate. Can you explain this wonderful marvel of AI?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the great features in the events portal and Webinar Plus and events is actually just a checkbox, right? So when you're building your event and you're in the same area where you're editing your settings and even specifying that you want to record in the first place, there's just a toggle there that's asking if you want to use AI to create content. It has to be enabled by your admin. It has to be, you have to be allowed to use AI features in the first place. But assuming those are on, you basically just check that box. You tell Zoom what you want it to generate. And then, one of those things, as you mentioned, is snippets, but we also do a pretty good job of generating docs and, like you could generate an email campaign pretty quickly around this. So you take maybe once you put a lot of effort into planning these events and these webinars and these scripts and these talk tracks and slides, and giving that content additional life beyond just the live event is something that we think is super important. And so, yeah, making it as simple as just checking a box and generating that content for you and allowing you to edit it and continue to use it. So again, just a very simple checkbox, and you specify what exactly you want. And although I can't be very specific, there is more coming in terms of content generation based on the content that you've created in a webinar for a webinar. And today, any of the recordings that are in your hub, you can basically create content off of them. Again, either clips, snippets, or a blog post, email campaign. All of that is possible with just a few clicks, and it saves you a lot of effort, at least as a sort of a V1 and a quick start option.
Yeah, that's great. And the reason I'm bringing that into this conversation is because this whole Production Studio allows us to be much more branded, much better than just a talking head with a little name thing along the bottom as, people look like when they're on Zoom meetings. And of course, if you're going to start reusing content everywhere, then there's no better place to record the original than in Production Studio to produce that branded output for your users.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that too, we kind of talked about weaving in pre-recorded and live content. One of the great things that you can do with Production Studio is fake pre-recorded segments, right? So if we had instead used, Josh's segment to pre-record in the exact, Production Studio scenes that you're using for this event, it's a lot easier to fool people, especially with those automated transitions that I'm sure you guys are going to show in hour 2, where, you play the video, you set it to automatically transition to your next scene in preview. And if you recorded it in Production Studio, and it seems to match the overall theme of the event, and then it automatically switches to a scene that your live speaker is ready for, it's a great way to do it. And it is very important to us, I think, to think about the whole life cycle of your content. Again, a lot of effort goes into these. We have a couple of products out with respect to the on-demand aspect, right? So there's Zoom Video Management. You can put your content in a channel and a sort of a playlist, right? And
Yep.
share that either internally or externally, and maintain a library of your videos. Great way to just take that content straight out of Production Studio exactly as it was in the live session and throw it into a channel that you can distribute. And then there's also with Zoom Events and Webinars Plus, the CMS, video CMS, that allows you to keep your analytics within your event and tied to your event. And again, just keeping that recording on Zoom is something that makes a lot of sense to us. Some people have terabytes of recordings of their programs, and instead of moving those to another platform, why not keep them where they originated? So
Yeah, and where I make use of this the most is probably those repeating events. If all I'm going to give you is a recording, then you might as well watch it on YouTube. But with Production Studio, I can create a recurring webinar, which may be an hour long, but it could contain, as you say, it could contain a recording of a presentation or a technical presentation or a product demo or something like that, which I don't want to do every single time because it's always the same. And I can then open the show, talk to the people, welcome the people onto the event. Maybe I've got a guest for that week. I can have them on stage and whatever. And then I can flip to a recorded version of me, which demonstrates a particular thing, which I'm going to demonstrate every week. And then I can come in and be live at any point as I like during the way I construct it. I might just do hello, recorded, goodbye. But I might have one where I do hello, recorded bit, me talk, Q&A. Maybe we have a breakout session for people to learn together. Then I have another recorded bit of me. It doesn't matter. I can mix it up in Production Studio. I mix it up just by setting up scenes and it transitions straight away. And I don't have to worry about all the complexities. I can leave the repeated stuff to being repeated once.
yeah, from a workflow standpoint on that, it's really great to pre-record some of your content, at least some of it, right? A lot of these events are busy. The traffic in the chat and the Q&A it's fast paced. It's hard to keep up with, especially if you're a small team or a team of one running these kinds of things. And so Production Studio, the ability to just upload a pre-record and let that segment run and know that it's going to handle its transitions automatically. If you have even a 10-minute video, that's a great opportunity for you to respond to text questions in the Q&A. You have to be a little bit careful with that if you're trying to fake it. You don't want to be responding in the Q&A while you're not typing on camera. But as long as you kind of think about those strategies, it can really give you some off ramps in your show. And I mean, the thing I love about it probably more than anything is just that, not that I would recommend this as an events professional, but you can run shows from poor hotel Wi-Fi, right? Pre-record a bit of your show, push play on that, watch it run, and it's in the cloud. It's just happening for you. You can do really complex shows with just a laptop and an auxiliary screen, the portable monitor. You don't really even need the second monitor either, now that we've put all the things in the one Production Studio panel. So it's really designed to be simple and to keep your workflow as easy as possible. to still give you that high production value in a show, but maybe you don't need a TriCaster for everything you're doing, right?
Yeah. I've even had a time recently where a speaker couldn't make it to an event. So I pre-recorded their presentation and they were somewhere else. And all they had was a hotel room. But the hotel room was good enough a connection for them to be able to answer questions in the chat. So after their presentation had been done, the audience could put questions into the chat and the presenter was able to answer them as if they were there. And I think probably half the audience didn't even realize it was a pre-recorded. I don't think we made a point of not saying it was and not saying it wasn't, but half the audience, I think probably more, didn't even realize it was pre-recorded. Just listened to the person, then put the questions into the chat. And we said, we're short of time, so we'll go on to the next speaker. But if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. And whatever her name was, I can't remember now, Doctor whatever it was, is still around to answer those for you. And we worked it through. And then, of course, is before we mention, because we have to mention it, don't we? We're obliged to mention Simulive, which allows you to start a meeting as a recording. But the neat thing is that at whatever point you want to, you can either close it or you can then take over live and then you can switch to production studio and you can do this mix up, mash up of what you want as well.
Absolutely. Simulive is a well-loved feature for sure, and really makes the flow simple. If you only have, let's say, a pre-show countdown or some kind of pre-show video, and then you've got the event, which is entirely pre-recorded, and maybe you just want to take some live Q&A afterwards, Simulive is a great sort of gateway opportunity in. You need the same level of licensing, Events and Webinars Plus. And so to kind of get you used to the way Backstage works, where you can communicate during the show and still do Q&A and mix in some pre-recorded videos, Simulive is a great way to kind of get started. And then when you're feeling a little bit more brave and you want to take a step into running actual live shows, Production Studio still gives you that crutch of, I have these video scenes, I have these pre-records that I can use, that I don't have to do everything live while I'm switching a show, which is hard to do. So kudos to you, Mike, for a smooth show here. But yeah, it's mixing in those the cloud recorded video scenes that you can just upload your video are probably the single most transformational aspect of Production Studio, in my opinion, just because as someone who was part of our professional services team here at Zoom, we used to offer as a direct service where we would support customer events and switch their shows for them and build their shows for them and consult on their productions. I was part of that team before I came into my current role. And one of the things that we often did was switching between, some kind of pre-recorded video, whether it's just a sizzle reel or a product demo or, anything that was a, any kind of pre-recorded video that we wanted to be in HD and have tight transitions between the slides and the video. And between that and just being able to spotlight multiple speakers at once in just a single click, I can't tell you, as a webinar producer that goes back probably as long as you guys, maybe a little bit, maybe not quite as long. It's just the quality of life difference is huge in terms of the amount of button clicks you need to do. You kind of, you think of Production Studio because you have to, pre-create everything. Think of it as like making an investment in, or a down payment on your event, right? If I'm a technical producer and I'm going to be switching this show, I can either do the work during the show and switch and have my, video scenes and my slides transitions and my camera transitions and my spotlights be 100 clicks that I have to get right in perfect sequence. And it's super rewarding when it goes right. Or I can just do that in advance and I can know that my scenes are programmed. I have my transitions down. All I need to do is click this button to send the video scene live, and then make sure my next scene is in preview and Production Studio is doing the rest of the work for me. So again, I think that's the real value highlight of it. It's a quality of life thing for the technical producer and the person who's driving the show. And then it's also just a big value saver in terms of, do you need a really complex production chain that costs a lot of money, that requires a lot of staff, or can you get very close to that look with a fraction of the cost? And we think Production Studio does that.
I agree. And I also suggest that even if you do have all that extra tech, I like the idea of using the extra tech and feeding it into production studio. So production studio
Absolutely.
is your final stage, and you deliver the content through all your clever tools and your systems you have into that stage, so that you've always got that the fallback, and you've also got that as the total system, because many corporates will have multiple locations. They might not have the same kit every location. And if you feed it all into production studio, and then production studio is the final answer, you'll always have that continuity of display and content. I'm pretty sure that most of us are coming through just basic cameras and a Zoom app here, but we could quite as easily be coming through a TriCaster ourselves, couldn't we? In fact, I'm not, because of course, as you've already seen, I am coming through I had to check which it was. I am coming through an A10 Extreme ISO. I've got 8 video inputs. I'm on the camera on 1 video input, and on 4090, you have the picture from my computer screen over there, which at the moment is showing off Production Studio. And Mike always gets the chance to have a wave then. He likes to do that. But yeah, we can mix it up, but I like Production Studio as my main thing. And I'm assuming that Ray Harwood, when you're running multiple locations all over the place, that's something which you know that gives you solidity, especially when you're running round the world locations. You've still got that production studio at the center, and you can even hand it off from one group to another. By the way, Mike Elliott, can you remind Zoomies that when they're doing a pre-record version themselves, they shouldn't answer the Q&A as themselves as well, because it gives away the secret. But
I will do that.
I know
I will try
Zoomies
to
use
get
it a
the word
lot.
out.
Ray, over to you, sir. Yeah, I know. It's all right, because Mike's got a button to say, remember to unmute, so it'll be there.
Yeah, I was asleep. No, I wasn't. While you guys were talking, I was actually thinking about to my nursing conference that I mentioned earlier. In that nursing conference, we had sort of consecutive sessions, and then we had a 4 set of concurrent sessions, simultaneous sessions. And I mean, I enjoy using Production Studio, but I can't run 4 sessions at one time. To me, the beauty of the fact that it is not that difficult, and there are now, I don't know how many people, dozens of people that I know that use Production Studio, use Zoom events, use Webinars Plus with Production Studio. I simply hired 8 different individuals, because we had the 6 regions, and they were 4 concurrent sessions in each of those 6 regions, so 24 sessions. I hired some people to basically run those individual sessions for me. Again, this entire operation was kind of a low budget. It was not designed to be a huge financial income for anybody, but I was at least able to hire some people to help out. And so those people are available. If your company is small and you are the Zoom events person, and you're the only one that knows Production Studio, there are people out here that will do consulting at reasonable rates for you and step in and help you. I've got a couple of clients who have their own fairly large events. And I've got 2 of them coming up in a couple of months. And I'm just there once a week or so to answer questions, and they go in and they say, hey, I made some changes to the way the speakers look. Take a look at that. And I might go, maybe you should try looking at this, try looking at that. And we also do use the Production Studio in the sort of the major keynote portions of their event as well. So yeah, we're out there if you need some help.
Thank you, Ray. Yes, there are quite a few people who are available for hire for running these things. And the nice thing is of course, that if you have one of them on your team, That's usually enough for you to be able to share the workload amongst your organization, but know you've got an expert on call when you need them. But we have a bonus feature because it's just been offered to me in chat. Mike Elliott would like to just, before he goes, because we did promise he wouldn't get it, he wouldn't have to stay the whole time, would like to talk to us about production chain simplification, which just sounded so amazing as an offer. I had to say yes. So welcome Mike Elliott to the stage about production chain simplification.
Sure. Thank you for that tee up. That's wonderful. So what I mean by production chain simplification is that one of the things that Production Studio does so well, which is something that's really hard to achieve even with the most expensive systems. I mean, like I've run shows with OBS, I've run shows with vMix, I've run shows with Zoom ISO and TriCasters and all kinds of different equipment. But just due to the nature of the internet, anytime you're doing a situation where you have your talent meeting in one place and your webinar where you're broadcasting in another place, you have to find some way to bridge those things, right? Because your speakers, if they're doing any kind of interaction in your production, let's say there's chat or there's Q&A that's happening in the webinar, but you have everybody else in a meeting. And that's often the case when we're talking about our production chain or our production workflow. We have everyone in a talent meeting or a speaker line, and that's where they're meeting. That's where the content is taking place. And we're extracting that feed, we're mixing it, and we're putting our lower thirds into it, or we're putting our backgrounds around it, we're putting our frames around our speakers, and then we're putting that mix back into a webinar. There's an inherent delay that happens in that process because you have to mix that. And there's an inherent risk in that process because that mix is happening on a local device. So we've already talked about how Production Studio is mixing things in the cloud. It's doing it in near real time so that when I'm sitting here as a panelist and looking at the attendee feed, I see it delayed by, I don't know, maybe half a second or so, right? And hopefully that's not too distracting to me. But the magic of Production Studio and the secret sauce is that that mixing is happening in this webinar. I don't have to split my panelists and my speakers into a different meeting where everything's taking place. And I don't have to have that extra link in my chain. I just have everybody in one spot. My panelists are here. My speakers are here. The screen share is happening here. My folks who are answering questions in backstage or helping out with the chat are here in this webinar. And I don't have to use third-party tools or any tricks to bridge these two things together. And it just removes some risk from the equation. And again, even if we're doing this on a really complex and expensive system, it's still mixing on that local device. And there's some delay before that makes it into the broadcast webinar. Whereas we're doing this all here live, real time in the same place and not having to maintain multiple different endpoints and connect them and bridge them together. So that's what I meant by that. Hopefully that's a helpful addition.
No, that's lovely. That's fantastic. Yeah, and that's why I like Production Studio to be the center or the mother that holds everything else together, whatever you want. I can't think of a good analogy now, but that's why I think it's good to have Production Studio, even if you have all these other tools. I would like to thank you, sir, for being here. I know that you've got some errands to run, so I'm going to let you go, especially as you've gone over what we asked of you. So thank you very much for being here, Mike, and I'm sure we'll see you on some other shows, and I know I attend some of yours as well. Mike does some good shows in Zoom as well. You check him out as well.
Thank you. I was really glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. Love to come on again sometime. And hopefully we'll see you guys at office hours and some of the other events that we host. And if you see anything on the Customer Success Hub that's using Production Studio, I might be driving. So check me out in the chat, and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay. Thank you very much, my friend. See you again soon.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, Lord Zoom Live is fantastic, but Zoom do some pretty good stuff themselves. Please don't miss out on all those things. Go to these Zoom community where you'll find us as community champions. Look at the learning guides. There is just so much information there. It's really good quality. Check it out. There are quite a number of different office hours. I just did one before the show on Zoom Phone to improve my Zoom Phone skills. But it's not Zoom Phone skills you want to improve. It's Production Studio. So in an official, unofficial way, I would like to thank you for all being here. This is the end of part 1. As expected, part 1 went on a bit longer than we expected it to do. I thought with all these lovely guests, we couldn't just get an hour. So we've had an hour and 20 minutes of glorious content from them. But now, and I'm glad I've got less time, because I don't think I could spend a whole hour showing you production studio without getting you rather worn out. And hopefully Ray's going to hang around because he'll correct me when I make a mistake. I'm going to flip my machine over and show you what happens before you run an event in production studio. Now, just to warn you, I am using Zoom events, not Webinars Plus. So there's a few extra bits and bobs, but we won't be looking at them. So please don't let that overawe you. Hopefully we now have, yes, we have Zoom events running, and I'm going to walk away from my screen now and hope everything is right. And this is where I start every week. We're an event here. As you can see over here, I've duplicated my Lord Zoom Live production, and I want to go into production studio. So I click this little box to turn it on, and I click edit scenes. If I hadn't already, I could have imported a template of the scenes, which is what I did to get this list of scenes. And these are the scenes, the default scenes that we have that Mike has to work with. And I warn you, there's more things here than you could ever imagine. So we have 15 out of the 50 used. That's just our default scenes. You can see them defined down the side. So the first one, I'll click on it, and you can see it is a image. And we know it's an image because these are on the right-hand side here. These are the options. So the first thing I can do is I can give it a title, which I did, title card. And this gives me all the layouts. But if I scroll down, you will see the layout I have chosen here is image. I'm told how big it is. I'm told how large I can have a file. I can click on the file there, and I can delete or I can add images. Then we have the new features, which we've only just had added, which allow me to turn on off display tags and allows me to add a lower third. And that is a basic image box. Here's the lower thirds that I can have. So I can choose which lower third I want, or I can turn that off. And of course, once I've got those defined, Mike can use them in his images. When the image is up on his production, he can turn those on and off. And then the second one we have, oh, and the one thing is it always tells you if you've not saved it, which is neat because I always forget. The next one is a video scene. So this is our opening 1 minute, 15 seconds, our video. I can play it to make sure it's right. You shouldn't be able to hear it because I haven't got the sound turned on for you. But I can play the music. I can just make sure it's right. And again, I can load that in by clicking that button. I can load it from my list of events. And there you are. There's the confession. There's the video of Josh, which we put into this so that we had him as part of the system. And I can take anything off my hub and put that in, or I can upload with a new video or a new image, depending if I'm doing an image or video. And this is the clever options I have for this. And Ray is going to remind me how many videos we're allowed to use at the moment, because we are limited to the number of video scenes we can create. I have 4 in my head. Maybe he's going to correct me with that.
I believe it's gone up, and I have not checked the most recent stat on that. I was trying to use AI to find the answer, and AI didn't help.
That's great, Ray. Yeah, I think it's gone up because they originally said we give you 4 because we want to see how robust the system is. I have a feeling the system is more robust now because it runs in the cloud. Of course, for videos, we have the ability to start from the beginning, start from the last position, because you might stop one and return to it. And we can also make the video do something like loop or go to the next previewed scene. And that means that we can make it flow like we tried to with Josh. And again, we've got the ability now, this has only just come up with the latest release, to do this playing around with lower thirds. As we've all noticed, Zoom have already said that they're going to be changing that title of that title so that it's a bit more flexible. And then the next one, I don't want to save it. The next one is a speaker view. So it's got the titles. You see, I've pulled up a logo for this title. So that looks a little bit more wonderful. Can I have it on always, or I can have it auto hide after so many seconds? And then as far as a video source is concerned, as in a person as a video source, we can actually change the aspect ratio of the person. All these are options are available. What happens? Well, cruelly, Zoom will just chop the edges off to make you fit to the different sizes. So if I choose a different size, and there are some videos where I've chosen a different size, when Mike puts me on the stage and you see me, the edges of my box. So I quite often might choose a 3.2 or a 5.4 to make the boxes fit in more easily. And in that case, I will lose the edges of my screen because we'll always come in as 16:9, but we can be changed. We can add wallpaper, the background, and you can add wallpaper of your own. And you can also do a set default for all scenes. So you can make the wallpaper work for all the scenes in your production, or you can go and upload one. So now I've given you some examples of the different types of things. What else do I want to show you as examples of? Oh, yes. So we've also got various things here which allow you to share a screen. So this is an example of a screen shared. Again, I can choose who is going to be the default screen sharer, and Mike can change that as we go on. And I think I've gone through all the options now. So we've had people, screen shares, images, and videos. But we don't just have these layouts. So let's go to this one again, which is me on the stage on my own. Maybe I don't want that on the scene. So here are my options. So I've got shared content. So these are all the options I could do if I wanted to be on the screen with a screen share. So we've got lots of different layouts here. And of course, I can customize these layouts to a degree. So for instance, I'm going to be a good example. So that one looks 50-50. But of course, I could change the side that's me. I could change the layout of that one, but I can't change the content. And when you go live, the screen will share. There are some other options I'm going to show you globally at the end. If anyone's worried I've forgotten them. So I could choose that one. And again, that wouldn't be very intelligent doing 9:16 underneath, but that might be quite good if I did one side by side. And remember the rule, if you put more boxes of videos and there is nobody to fill those videos, they disappear. So that would end up at the moment of a one-on-one. If I went down here and chose somebody else, which I can't because no one else is defined for this thing, I can't add another video to that. Mike could add a video to that. And what is interesting and caught me out when I first did this is just because I'm on screen doesn't mean it has to be my screen that's shared. So I might be on the scene, but we could choose a different person to do the presentation. So the presentation could be run by maybe somebody who's centrally running it for everybody, or it could just be a different person. So that's shared content. Then we got video tiles. I don't know why they put them in this order. I would have put them in the other order. Video tiles is just us people. So there's a good example of 3 people side by side. And because of the 9:16, they take up all the screen. If I do them to the normal 16:9, the normal layout, you can see we got gaps, tops, and bottoms. And if you've got gaps, tops, and bottoms, you're probably going to want to add a wallpaper if you haven't got a default one. That looks a bit scary, doesn't it? And we've also got these other 2 things here as well. So if I wanted to play around with the layout, maybe a bit 4:3, no, 4:5, that looks better. But I've also got spacing, so I can change the spacing here. And what this does is, well, let's do a big one first because it's more obvious. So if I do a big one like that, and then I change the safe area, you can see that there is a gap at the top that's made to appear. If you have graphics or titles or things like that, this forces the image to go below it. So let's go back to, yes, we're on video title. So I can choose all the various people. This is a gallery view, which we used earlier, and I can choose which size of gallery I'm going to use. And of course, if there aren't enough people to be in the gallery, then they won't be displayed, which is why we only got a smaller number of people on our 9 shot for our gallery. The other thing you can add, while we're talking about layouts, because I forgot to mention it, and Ray's going to tell me off in a minute if I don't mention it, you've also got the ability to add borders. So we can set a border style for the people, make it a bit more beautified. We can choose one of our colors, which I think is for my presets of colors, or we can go and choose one of our own.
John, you want me to hop in for a second?
Yeah, please do.
All right, look, one of the things Mike said, Mike Elliott said, is to look at the life cycle of your content and look at the branding of your content. From my perspective, really, before you even get into the production studio scene setup, meet with your creative people. I don't care. I like a little yellow border around, but there are people who go, no. You need this wallpaper and you need this color around these, and that sort of thing. Figure all of that out early. Now you need to have used the editor a little bit to understand what they're going to look like, but figure out how you're going to position your wallpaper when you are and when you're not going to use borders, and you can change the borders in various sizes and that sort of thing. But, look at that sort of aesthetic, make that plan earlier so that when it comes time to actually create your scenes, it's sort of methodical and you just go through and go, let's see, do I want to use the yellow or the orange or the red? No, you've got a style guide set up and just set it up.
Thank you. That is a very good thing to mention. Now, I'm in the events package, so I've got all the different customizations you can have. So I can set as I did for this, I can set a sessions image. And I can control all the branding before the event even starts. And then, as Ray correctly says, think about where your content's going to be used, because you may have a custom, this is not a good example. We've only got any better examples of wallpaper. Oh, let's have that one. That's quite good. So think about your
Type wallpaper in the search, John. Don't you have them named? There you go.
No, sir. I'm not very good at that. And I've now, did I hit cancel? No, it's loading. And I've chosen this one badly on purpose, I promise you, because of course, you got to think how your wallpaper then works when you get to your production studio, because there is going to be places where it's not going to be seen, like that scene there. But if I make myself smaller, actually I didn't apply the wallpaper, so let's apply the wallpaper to everybody. You need to understand, and I've had well, I've just pulled my hair out a few times on this. So if I have set that as a default for all my scenes, what I've got to think about is, how does that background look? Does it fit? Depending on what size my screen is there a point at which it doesn't make sense? So yeah, you're totally right, Ray. There's a lot of things that you can do to make the branding look really cool. And of course, as we were talking about earlier, when this gets turned into snippets and used elsewhere, what is it that people are going to see? What's it going to look like? You want to make it look good so that you do it once, you do the event, and then you can just chop and change your content whenever you like. Very good point, Ray. Thanks for that. So the other shared content, which we've done the shared content, which is where you are, somebody's going to screen share it, and then you're going to have people or not have people round and above. You see, we've got all the options here, really, whether you're on the right or on the left, whether you're above or below. You've got your borders. You've got your, so you can put a border on the speakers. You've got the aspect ratio of those people when they're on the stage. And then you've got the video tiles. We've got all the different ways you can lay out people. Well, what's interesting is there are a few layouts like this one and that one and that one and that one, where your main speaker is being given a bigger box and the other speakers are there to support them are in slightly smaller boxes. Even to the extent of doing that one or that one, which, again, if they don't all turn up and they're all allocated, they just won't be there. And then you've got this box as well. So, and that's the flip of it. They've done the mirror images for almost all of these, which is really neat. So that's the video tiles. And then lastly, you've got the media, which you've already shown. So you can have a full-size image with a slight edge around it, which again, I could put a border on. Could make the image. Let's put an image in there, shall we? Give me a chance to basically plug another show. Why not? And you've got the wallpaper behind it. And you've also got the option to do it full size. And then I suppose they decided it wasn't useful, and I haven't actually thought of a way of doing it, but you can have the video the same way on the edge or full screen, but you can also have a video showing with a real person next to it. Again, in all the layout styles that we had before. You can't have a person with a static image in front of them, which I thought would have been a neat way for somebody to be able to show a slideshow together instead of a slideshow. So we could use images, but that is not available. So maybe there was some reason why they did that. Again, for these, you assign the speakers that you want to be, or you leave that for poor Mike to do afterwards, because Mike's screen looks actually quite similar to this when we're live. It's the same things in the same place, so it does make it a bit easier. But as we said, or as I said, I can't remember who said it now, but whoever said it, you must set these up before you start the show. If you don't set them up before the show, they are gone and you can't change them and they are fixed, and that's what happens and you have to suffer that. And as I've already said, tough luck. I think that's the way it should be, because otherwise things get complicated. If I start a show and then Mike says, oh, I need another scene, and I go away and set the scene and then it changes his layout because I've now updated the layout, no, please don't have that feature. Just make sure people get their scenes set up correctly. So Ray, have you got any other advice or tips about what to do when you're creating your production studios? And by the way, once you've created one, you can save it as a template and then you can reuse it. So you don't have to do it from scratch every time. So Ray, tips from you.
Well, let me take a step back a little bit, and that is not necessarily creating, I like to refer to them as scene sets, a scene set that you're going to use in a session. Think about creating a scene template, which you can create outside of a session. I like to have a scene template that has one of each of all of the basic types. I like to have a screen share. I like to have an image. I like to have a video play out, except you have to have a video in it. But, have a 10-second video that you drop into one. Have one of those big 9-ups, because you know that with a 9-up, you can put 8 or 7 or anything down to 1, put them in there. Put in one of the gallery views. And if you think you're going to have a lot of people, maybe it's not a 9-up. Maybe it's a 25-up or a 49-up. I don't know if you saw that when he was using the gallery view that you could put in there, but you can literally put in a 49 up gallery view if you're going to have a whole lot of people on stage. Again, for my nursing conference, when we had our 4 simultaneous sessions, each of those with 3 or 4 presenters and a moderator, that's 20 people. We had a 30-minute, 15 to 30-minute session after that where we invited all of those presenters into one webinar session. And I used that 25 up gallery view to allow all of them to come on and sort of, you know, thank you for your presentations and that sort of thing. But create yourself a sort of a standardized scene set, scene template that you just keep there. So if you need to go in and just create something real quick, you can just go grab one, drop it in, and not have to worry about it. Or maybe you know that that particular scene template is going to work pretty well, but you need a couple of video playouts, maybe 2 or 3. You can go add those in and that sort of thing. So that's sort of my first general advice is, you know, make sure you have something to make it easy when you're like, oh, you know, we're going to throw something together to do in the next hour, which doesn't happen a lot, but does happen. The other is practice, practice, practice. This is what I told my folks down in New Zealand is look, you know, I'm going to be here with you for an hour, hour and a half and show you the things, but you need to go in, grab a couple of buddies, come in, take turns into a session. We put all of them in as alt hosts in one sort of side session that had the scene template pulled in, and they were able to kind of play with that and use it and use it and use it. And oh, what happens if I have this 9 up and I put 3 people in? What does it look like when I send that live? What happens if I have a 9 up and I put 1 person in? Ooh, you know, so you can find those things. It's kind of interesting. The very first time I did it, John was showing a couple of those scenes where you had a large video of somebody and 2 or 3 small videos of other people. If you only put 2 people in it, it makes them both the same size. That was kind of weird to me the very first time. I wanted to see a big picture and a small, you know, the speaker over here and the moderator over here, just sort of, no, it puts them up both the same size. So experiment, play, spend some time. That's what, you know, people like John and I, and I'm sure Mike too, we just spend a lot of time going in and seeing what works and what doesn't work the way we expected. Spend some time with it. And that's when I'm going to come back sort of meta to the before you get started piece. There are 2 schools of thought, and neither one of them is wrong on how to build scene sets. One of those is I've already got a predetermined layout of, you know, Heidi's going to speak, and then Teddy's going to speak, and then I'm going to play a video of these 2 people and another video of these 2 people, and then Teddy's going to do a presentation, and then we're going to go back to Heidi. She's going to do a presentation, and again, then I'm going to bring Heidi and Teddy back together. That was sort of my main feature for my nursing conference. Building that scene, I just made it sequential. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had a couple of extra scenes down at the bottom in case I wanted to mix it up a little bit, but I was very comfortable doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they work. So that's number 1 is, but if you're going to have a 3-hour long gig, you know, you don't want to use 50 different scenes to, like, every time you're going to cut to somebody else, you don't want to do that. So the second option is build at least 1, and sometimes I would say 2 of each of those, you know, 9 up sets, or a big one with 4 or 5 people, or that. Build those, and you can have, if you have 2 of them in there, you can build one with people dragged into it. You can bring the other one into preview, and instead of John being the big picture and 2 or 3 people on the small side, Mike can be in the big picture and 2 or 3 people on the small side. You can have those and flip back and forth between them, that sort of thing. So that's the second really sort of approach to developing your scene sets is have a bag of tricks and know how to use them. And that really is where, all the experience in the world can't prepare you for every possibility, but you know what the possibilities are with all of them set up.
I love that, Ray.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to mention a secret that it's not a secret, but most people forget. When you set up your meeting, webinar, I mustn't use the word meeting. When you set up your webinar, you set the date and time that it's going to happen. But if Mike wants to practice, we can open up that meeting at any time we like until the event happens and ends, and then it's closed.
Yep. Yep.
So if you want to practice, you don't have to create a completely separate system. You can practice in the event you want to work in. If you are worried about practicing and breaking things, you won't. But if you're still worried about playing around with layouts and maybe trying new ideas in Zoom, and you're using Zoom events, there's a duplicate button. You can just go to the event, you can hit duplicate. That's how I've got the demo one on my other machine. I just hit the duplicate button.
I do that a lot, John. And I'll go, oh, I just need a regular webinar, just a regular webinar to practice with Production Studio. I'll put bracket test demo bracket Production Studio, and I'll schedule it for 3 months in the future. And I can open that anytime that I want, because
mine expire at Christmas. I'm so pessimistic. All mine expire at Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And you have to give yourself new test things.
That's it.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you've got volunteers who are helping, they go, oh yeah, I want to practice. You set up one that has all of them in it and have it on like at the end of the last day, but you tell everybody, you just go in, you're on the list. And I like to think of it in the multiple day, multiple session type things, like it's a regular auditorium. It's like you've got the backstage pass. You are either an alt host or a host, which means you own the event, or you might be a speaker who has alt host privileges. And if you've got any of those, even speaker, you can get into the lobby before anybody else and wander around and look at everything. And then on the day that the event host has decided that the lobby will actually open for everybody else, the doors open and the people at the door are going, I need to check your credentials before you come in. Oh yeah, you can come in. You can come in. No, wait, you have to log in first before you can come in. You can come in, and they can wander around in the lobby, but you can turn that time on beforehand and just have a couple of days for people to wander around in the lobby. Why would you do that, John? Why would you do that? Well, there's some networking features in there. You can actually go find other people. To me, it's kind of nice at a regular conference to wander around and go, I remember you gave that speech last year. Talk to them and that sort of thing. Kind of interesting to do that on a multi-session, multi-day event.
I love that. Thank you very much. I think Mike's been lurking enough. I think it's about time we gave him some work to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my picture over to Production Studio, not running in here because that freaks Mike out, but a copy of it running in a separate event, which is the duplicate. So if I flip that over to that, Mike, would you like to, and Ray, chime in if you have anything to mention, but Ray, would you like to tell us how this, no, let's let Mike, go on, Mike, do some work. Tell us how this wonderful world works. So I've got, I hope you can see it, Production Studio and me sitting here. As I'm the only person in this event, I'm all on my own in demo mode. Welcome, Mike Latter.
Hello, everybody. So yes, we do see you, John. Go ahead.
Well, would you like to show us around this template that I've laid out for you, and then I'll know where I got it all wrong?
Sure. All right. So I will let everybody see that full screen. And so basically, is this one of our templates or is this today's, John? Just for my sake.
I don't think it's today's, but it's from the template that we basically work from.
Right. Okay. So again, the first scene at the very top that John has up right now is what we classify as our title card. So this is what I will actually use to initialize the production studio attendee view within the webinar plus functionality. So this is, so should we get that? So should we open up the actual webinar plus early that everybody actually sees, has something to see, and it actually doesn't say host is about to start the webinar soon scenario. So that slide would then be up, and then we would go from title card to the next, which is very similar, but it is actually our countdown video. So this is actually scene number 2. So this
Okay.
would actually be the, yeah, go ahead, John.
So, so you click on the title card. I did that already before we went live. So anything you click on down the left-hand side here appears in the preview window. And then if I
Right.
want it to go live, I click this button here and it will go to over there and it will become the live thing. So I've already sent the title live. So as you say, I would then chase the video. And then after we've decided to play the music, I would just click send live and that would then go from the left-hand side to the right-hand side.
Right. And then usually I will have that not auto start until I actually get the green light from John that we're actually up on all the platforms. So that this is what you actually still see. And the actual webinar, if you're joining us in the actual Zoom webinar, and the people that are joining us today in the Zoom webinar itself, this is what you actually saw before we actually went live on all our different social media platforms. And then at that particular point, when I get the cue that we're up on all the different social media platforms, then I will actually activate the actual player and it'll start playing like John is showing now. And this would actually be in program. Thanks,
And
Tony.
you were-
Tony from YouTube is loving us. He says, thanks, so much great content today. Thanks, Tony. Yes, definitely. We're going in a little more depth and I'm glad you were able to spend the whole 2 hours with us. Go, John.
Okay, so that's going live and that's tuning along. So of course the next person is going to be me. So I click on that and there's me. And if you didn't want it to be me, you could replace me with somebody else.
Right.
Or just
There,
remove
or
me.
actually now, yeah. And or John now actually with that toggle.
Oh,
and
with the
toggle in
toggle
the
now, of
video.
course. Yes, the toggle, which just makes all this
Yeah.
stuff so much easier.
Yeah, the toggle. I love the toggle, everybody. I'm so glad. I was so happy to see the toggle. I was jumping up and down because it made my life, especially today with having Mike come in and Josh's video and such, and being able to turn on the certain things that John is doing on and off there, the toggle thing, so much easier than me actually going up to the 3 dots all the time in each scene and actually going either replace or remove. And again, if you replace and you don't have another person to replace with, you have to do a remove first, then a replace, then actually add somebody new. Yeah, so at the end of the video, even though John didn't have it, I would normally have it at the end of the video, go from whatever's in preview next to automatically cut over, and then John would have actually been live.
Okay, so let's do that for you. So if I just do the end of it, I've set that option
Yeah.
for you to go to next scene in preview. So when it gets to the end of the
And you'll see
video,
that.
there we are.
And there you
And
go.
now I'm on stage.
And then John is on stage. Yep. Then the next scene is the important scene that everybody sees every once in a while, which is the branded John within the actual box with our Lord Zoom Live content.
And that will then give you view to see the gaps around the edges, which would allow you to see the branding.
Correct.
Excellent. So,
And again,
so you
I
have it
will
easy
toggle
really, Mike,
now.
don't you?
What's that?
You have it easy really. All you got to do is just click on things here and put the people in them and then go live.
Yeah, and you're actually being more difficult with it because you're still doing it old school where you're doing the ad speaker where actually you could actually have nobody in there now and just actually use the toggles. So if you go back to the videos, there you go. Boom. For the share, no. But if you have that scene up and you actually had 4 people in there, like I've had today, All it took me was go tick, 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 and then all of a sudden all four were populated automatically. Would that be a Stream Deck button?
Be
Yeah,
hard, wouldn't it? It would be
it would
hard.
be hard. Yes. Yeah.
So
Because
yeah,
Stream Decks
Stop
would need to
asking for
know
that,
how many
guys.
people are actually on that. You'd have to actually know each individual video source in your Stream Deck to be able to enable or disable it per scene. So yeah, that would definitely could get very easily complicated with the Stream Deck capabilities. Not necessarily can't be done. There's no such thing as it couldn't be done. It would just actually need to have a lot more capabilities because again, the Stream Deck itself really only loves text and images. So unless you had a screenshot of the person as the picture in the button, then great. But that would be definitely the situation there. Back to you, Johnny.
I mean, it is really easy, and that's why I like it, because it is easy to use. It's easier than the other production tools I know. Keep it simple. Zoom makes it nice and easy. I think the only thing we have the question of is this limits thing. So we know that you have to be HD 1920 by 1080 with the video images. We're just not totally certain of those 50 scenes, how many videos or images you could squeeze in, but we'll find the answer out and we'll put it in the notes and we'll put it wherever. Oh, Ray, have you found the answer?
I don't have an answer for you actually. And I've asked 3 or 4 different places, and I've gone to the help page that all talks about how to set up production studio and scenes and all that sort of stuff. And it does talk about the 2-hour limit and the disk space size, which is, a gracious plenty. I can't even remember how much it is.
4 gig, I think.
And I know there used to be a limit to the number of video scenes that you could have, but I think enough people complained about it of what if I'm having a long event and I want to have a bunch of 5 to 10 minute snippets that kind of come after each other without having to go into the editor and string them all together to create one long one. And yeah, I think it's probably as many as you might like.
Good answer. I like that. That's a good answer. It is just easy to use. It's got the basic features that you would need to make a good branded piece of content. And as we've said, that's not just the event itself. That's also then giving you branded content, which you can then cut up and use for all your other things, your socials and your replays and all the other places. And of course, if you do keep it in the content management system of Zoom, then you've got the access possibilities of transcripts. You've got files that you may have added for people to download. And once you do an event once, it just makes it so easy to repeat. Our Lord Zoom show usually takes me 15 to 20 minutes to set up for each week, because all I need to do is go into Canva, because Zoom doesn't have an image editing program yet. And that allows me to make my hero images. Then I go into Camtasia, which is where I have the video, so I can mix the video with the latest hero image. And then I save that and I put that into Zoom. Ray, have you got a better way of doing it?
No. But you talking about using different things. I did want to mention that if you create these videos, you know what format's being generated, and you know that if you've created something out of Premiere Pro, 500 times and they've all played through just fine, that's a good thing. if you're getting videos dropped into you from other people, always go in, upload them, play them, and make sure they play. I have had some where it's like, oh yeah, the day before I'll go upload that video and find out that it was encoded in, I don't know, some other format. And look at if they're MOV files, they have to be MP4 files. So if you have a media encoder like Adobe, tosses along with you on your Premiere Pro, then you can change it into something that'll work. But always take that, through a trial run and make sure it'll run.
Very good point.
Yeah,
Mac
John,
people.
I wanted to mention that I actually did that with Josh's video today, is I actually double checked to make sure before we went live with his actual video, knowing Josh, and again, making sure that he did send it to us. Again, Josh is who he is. So, but again, still, I did double check, and that was part of my checklist as well, to make sure that I checked the video quality and also made sure that I adjusted the levels and such so that he wasn't necessarily louder than everybody else. That's why it was very easy to almost not even really tell that Josh wasn't here.
Yeah. And it was only the style of his video that sort of gave the hint to some people that maybe he wasn't here, because we had the little video window. But we could have got that recorded in Zoom clips, and then we could have pushed the fakery even further. But yes, and I have a problem sometimes with Mac people, because some people like to record things on their iPad and then they don't do the 9:16 ratio properly, so you get little edges get missed off because
Close, John. Yeah, other way around. 16:9, not 9:16.
By 9.
Right.
Yes.
By 9.
But they lose the edge. They lose the ends of it, and therefore you get little blanks there, which are okay if you've got a background to cover that. So, yeah, make sure your sources are. Test it. I think we've said that quite a bit recently. Test, play, enjoy, test.
Practice,
John,
practice.
I did have one surprise during my nursing conference. One surprise, something that happened that, like, that's not right. And apparently it is right. I don't know. I had a 16:9. All of the video slots that I had for that were 16:9. But I had one lady who was unable to get through on her computer and Wi-Fi internet issues or whatever, but she was able to get through on her phone, which she promptly laid down in front of her. And she was well framed right in the middle of the phone, but it was a long video. Which was a long video. This was the old school of the sources. It was a tall video, vertical video in the sources area. But when I dropped her in to the scene area, it cropped her in to fill and took the middle portion of it. It was beautiful, actually. There were no black bars. It made her fill the entire slot. And when I sent her over to live, it was great. It was a little tight in, but it worked out really well. But again, how many different possibilities can you think of to test? I think I thought of all of them, but you never do.
That's so true. I can do the rebuild of this because we have pretty much the same scenes and the titles as I explained in 15 minutes, but I will almost always start the event an hour earlier. It doesn't matter if we're going to do a 1 hour event, a half-hour event, or a 2 hour event. I will always start the event an hour early, and I would hope that by the time it got to half an hour to go, I have got rid of all the niggling little worries about how the things may or may not work. And then I can relax a bit more, except for connecting to social media, which I believe, I apologize to those people on YouTube. I don't know if it will show off the recording, but there is a, how can I put it? There's an a slightly larger inconvenient lag between us talking live and what you're seeing on YouTube out the corner of my eye over there. So I think we did have a little bit of a glitch at some point, and they seem to be reconnected and working well. But I'm talking to you now, and I can still see Mike chatting away. So there we are. It's fixed. It's kept going. The system is really realistically quite amazingly resilient. And again, I think I've said it 3 or 4 times. I'm going to say it one more time before we end. Zoom Production Studio is running in the cloud. If my internet breaks, if I faint because of the heat we've had in the UK recently, the event can keep going as long as you have another host or co-host available on the team in the event. They can take over. I can't help you if a particular speaker doesn't turn up on the day, unless, of course, you have a recording of them to put in its place. But this is a really resilient system, and I will keep saying it because I want Zoom to make sure this happens. This should be your control, your home for your events. Once you've got Webinar Plus and events, you should use Production Studio all the time. Even if you're going to use more clever Production Studio tools, like I've been using a video switcher to bring that picture into the screen on the computer over there, because otherwise it would have been in Windows over here. That's why I'm using it. But I'm using it through a third-party piece of hardware. Even though I'm doing that, even though I could run the whole show in the kit I've got here, I still find it more preferable, more secure, and a better production flow to run in Production Studio. Final thoughts from you all, guys. Final thoughts from Ray first, because Mike likes to do the close. Any final thoughts from Ray? No, Ray wants to hand it to Mike. This is what I like. Delegation. So my final thought is, if you're a big corporate, you've probably got this, so go and play with it. If you're not a big corporate, you're a small business, a small user, the 100-user version you can buy on a monthly basis. Now, I know that sometimes the pay-as-you-use is a better for smaller events, but 100 users is a monthly fee. And that means you can run as many real or test events for that month. And then if you don't like it, you can cancel. The 100-user license is can be used as a month-by-month license. And even if you're doing, oh gosh, I see a lot of people using meetings still for their presentations, and it makes me really angry. Because the control and the professionalism and the branding you get from this product, you're trying to sell people well, even if it's $500, $1,500, most of you are trying to sell $5,000 type products. Don't you think that, you know, a few dollars, having a better production studio around you is worth the money? I do. I'm pretty damn sure that, quite frankly, you should easily get an extra customer out of this particular layout to doing it on meetings. And then you got the problem, them on the screens, you can't get rid of them. All those issues you have when you go from meetings to webinars are removed. And if you then try Webinars Plus, I think it's worth the money. I really do. You only have to convert one more person for most events. It looks professional. It looks good. It's so many tricks we've showed you today in Production Studio. That's worth the pyre of emission. And if you want to take Ray's suggestion, if you got half a dozen of you in some sort of, I don't know, workshop or group that you've got some sort of team that you're working together, you might even be separate businesses. Why not share an account for a while? I say for a while because I can promise you, as soon as you're successful, you won't want to share an account with anyone. You'll want to have it for yourself. So it's got all of your own content, all of your analytics, and all of your data kept to you, not to anyone else. But why not share it to start with? Why not have a go? For a month, it's worth the fee. Want to share it between 4 or 5 of your friends and they can have a go? Fine.
That's good advice, John. And I'll just say
Thank
it's a
you.
lot like a timeshare. Two people can't be using it at the same time. You want to do something Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. and someone else has already got the room booked. You can't do it. And Zoom events and Zoom webinars plus, if that's the license you get, will go, no, you can't do it at that time. But yeah, the sharing idea is it's great. The other thing that you can do, and this is a little off the topic of production studio, is that you can actually name people outside of your organization as co-editors on a specific event. So I can create an event and invite 2 or 3 people to be co-editors. And one of them maybe is a really good graphics person. They can go in and load in all the graphics. Another person is real good working with the bios of the speakers. And we've got lots of speakers. I've got clients that have, hundreds of speakers. This one that I'm doing in September, they're probably going to have 140 different speakers. They're each going to have their own little private meeting with their own little subscribers to their Medium newsletters. And that'll run for a day, and they'll have concurrent sessions, and there'll be a couple of thousand people all there listening to their favorite authors. So, having several of us in the mix, making sure that everything looks nice and is set up. That's how you learn to do that, is by trying it and giving it a try. Get a timeshare with your buddies and take a whirl. John, are you doing that on
I'm
purpose, John?
speechless.
Okay.
I'm not going to follow that.
All right.
I was going to say that yeah. The only other follow up that I can add to this, John, is that absolutely don't forget to practice. Yeah. Johnny's trying to find me. I'm over there. I'm honest that there I am. Yeah. Hi everybody. I've been a busy boy, as everybody knows. So yeah, it's for the last couple hours. So yes, absolutely. Now I might have made it look easy, but again, I've been switching video for many years. So again, to know how to do the switching and such like that too, I've done what Ray and John and I preach: practice. And I've done this enough that I know when to actually have certain people on at certain times, and all of a sudden figuring out, yeah, John's actually going to say to have me beside and then Ray above and me below, and then we'll have that. And Ray was making the comment about, over me, and then there's John over that. And then sure enough, I made Ray smile when I actually put up that scene that he was talking about 2 seconds before that. But again, I was able to do that quickly on the fly. Is it easy to do, as John showed? Yes. But again, you've got to be able to anticipate as well. And yes, Juju, absolutely. Practice. Absolutely. That is definitely my takeaway for this too. With Production Studio, you can be a big champion and land those big gigs that John is talking about.
So I said this is going to be a Lord Zoom live and longer. Certainly lived up to it. Thank you very much, Ray, for being here. Thank you, Josh, for sending us the recording. Thank you, Mike Elliott, for dropping in from Zoom. Thank you to Mike Latter for delivering on the control that we wanted. Only remains for me to say thank you for watching this, whether it was live or in the recording. Thank you for the guys who made the comments on YouTube, and for the comments in the audience as well. If you join our audience, we tend to open up 10 minutes early, so you get to see what's going on. So if you want to be part of the system, you are welcome to join us. I can only take about 900 of you, but if you want to turn up, I'll try and fit you in. It only leaves me to say thank you, and now he's had long enough, because one of the tricks of being a host is to try and give hints to the production studio controller what's going to happen next. So I think I've given him enough time now. He's been able to set up the closing titles. So over to you, and thank you very much, everybody. And over to you, Mike Latter.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this week on the Lord Zoom Live. I'm glad everyone was enjoying the extra extended edition of Lord Zoom Live. And I'm loving all the feedback that we got on YouTube, and I can imagine all the different feedback that we got as our audience on the Zoom Webinar Plus platform that we're using. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which of course lets everyone know on YouTube, as well as the feedback does get back to Zoom. As you saw, we had 2 Zoomies on today. That our content is so important to you, to Zoom, and to YouTube. And don't forget, we're here every week, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Look at me, John, going off of that one easily now. And don't forget, as I said, we're here every week. And of course, we also have our Production Professionals Power Hour at noon Eastern on Friday, this upcoming Friday. And Johnny, you're not going to give away any hints of what we're going to have quickly?
I'm going to take green to another level.
There you go. That's enough of a teaser for everyone. See you on Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Check your local time zones to adjust the different times that we've let you know here right now. And see everyone next week for another edition of, as I look at Production Studio to make sure I got the button ready for the closing video that everybody saw in the template. Have a good week.
Every week we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. From big events to breakout rooms with flair, we've got the tools and we're ready to share. Guest experts drop in, bringing gold each time, with insights and tricks to help you climb. Can't make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we glow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. And make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Now take the spotlight, the stage is yours. Bring your message through virtual doors. Each week we gather, and now you know you're not alone, so let it flow. Thank you for joining us, now go and shine. Share what you've learned, your voice, your time. With Lord Zoom Live, your power will grow. It's time to build your own show.